Have you ever picked a photograph that didn't technically come out as well as it should have, but it had enough heart for you to want to publish? I mean,
Oh,
I'm assuming
yeah.
yes, but
And, sometimes I think when you're doing a whole bunch of things experimentally that aren't safe, that aren't going to result in I mean, you could make safe lighting choices that expose things a certain way because you've done it a million times, but you've done it a million times. Um, One picture that I won't waste the time to try to find right now in my photos, but I was in this dark hallway in an abandoned building, abandoned stairway with a model, and it was really tight, and I didn't have a lot of room, and it was so dark that my main flash unit, I couldn't focus because low light, you can't autofocus stops working, and I had my camera, my cell phone light, and so I just sat my cell phone against the wall and was lighting the person with the light so that the autofocus could focus. And then I realized this is my 60 Mark II, or maybe it was the Mark One, but I was like, oh, these new cameras are so super sensitive. I can have ISO 64,000. Like I can basically, it's like see in the dark camera. It's super grainy. So I I said instead of this being the focusing light, let me just use this as the main light.
oh,
Set my sensitivity so high, it's insane. Um, and then started taking, natural light photos with the cell phone light.
hmm,
And it came out super dark, super grainy, super heroin chicy. And it looked kind of weird and imposing. Um, and I was like, that's the shot we were looking for.
hmm.
And this is awesome.
Oh
Even though
wow.
technically the pictures are crap.
But someone would have probably thought you used a filter to make it look that way, even,
Yeah, I didn't
like,
need a filter I didn't
yeah,
add grain.
that's great.
I didn't push up any sliders really. That's actually a natural light
Wow,
photograph
that's neat.
with the cell phone camera.
I wish
Cell phone light.
I wish my wedding clients would be appreciative of the blurry, grainy shots.
Oh no, never. The arty shots they don't like.
No, yeah, not at all.
That's I think the thing that I'm doomed with is in trying to make some progress as a fashion photographer in the field, which would add to my street cred in amazing ways, more than making a living doing it. Um, like if I had I mean, I want to do well, but in order to do well in this field, you have to be good at taking pap. You have to be good
Mm,
at giving them the pictures that the editor wants or that the people want
right.
or the mass of people want. And my ongoing problem has always been like, no, I ain't doing that. I just don't want to. I would just lose interest.
Right.
Um, so I take the kind of weird fashion shots that I want to take and low angle, what have you. Using flash back when people were like, yeah, flash makes it look artificial and weird. And I'm like, not if you know how to use it right.
Mm,
Um, so, doing weird things like bumping up the saturation sliders, like degrading the picture sometimes. Um, yeah, that kind of thing keeps me interested. I mean, I could probably do much better if I really looked and acted the part.
mm.
Like, yeah, I'm not gonna, yeah, if I mention this guy, people will be able to figure out what I'm talking about. But basically, if I looked like a fashion photographer, if I dressed up in a suit, bow
Scarf.
tie, did my hair a certain way, and like really got into that and took the kind of pictures that um, Vogue would like, because Vogue likes street fashion from Korea. Um, yeah, I'd probably do much better in terms of commercial work. But when this person who did this street fashion um, package for years for one of the major fashion magazines, doing street fashion in Seoul, and I was kind of like, hmm, I've been doing street fashion since 2006, but they won't talk to me. Why is this random guy getting all this work? And I was kind of like, hmm. But um, a friend of mine pulled me aside and was like, the reason you're they don't want you is because your pictures look like your pictures. The pictures they put out are just like these really well exposed,
Mm,
nice moments, but they could be anyone's pictures.
mm,
So that kind of follows my rule that if I had a stack of 100 pictures and just one of mine, I should be able to throw them in the air. And then when they hit the ground, I should be able to pick mine out. And
mm,
anyone should be able to pick yours out. And I definitely think that's there. Um,
mm.
and I'm proud of that fact. I'd rather be able to do that um, and be able to pick mine out of a stack of 100 pictures on the floor. I'd rather not be getting the calls from the majors as long as my work looks like my work.
Nice.
So that's what I say.
I know.
I'd love to make $10,000 a season at Seoul Fashion Week by being the guy in demand and delivering packages to a zillion people, but that's not happening. So just keep doing my thing. I think that when I'm dead or when I'm 70, 80 years old, that's when people may be like, oh, look at this person's work. This was great. This was really important. But it's always like that. When you're younger and able to benefit from fame or recognition at the very least,
Mhm.
nobody knows who you are. But when I'm a super old guy and I get I don't know if it'll be a phone, the meta telepathy device
Meta
call,
telepathy. I
and
love
they're
it.
like, "Oh, we know that you did all this work in the ancient times of the early 2000s. We'd like to put together a retrospective and a book and a huge exhibition in the middle of Sejong, Art Center, Cultural Center." I'll be like, "Yeah, I wish you'd called 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
at least there's a possibility of that happening." Um, but yeah,
Hmm.
I think if I was trying to do ethnography of high fashion people and trying to really enter the high fashion world, that's what I really wanted to do, then my desire to my way of photographing could match what I needed to get into that world. But I don't have that desire. I want to do the subcultural weird kids, the ones who are like on the edges of culture, the ones who are in the middle of making LGBTQ drag queer culture kind of more normal. Like
Hmm.
put it out there into society so people accept different points of view,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Those
So
are the more interesting photo. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at Vogue and all those things, it's like, yeah, in a few years, who cares, right? Like it's fine in the magazine when it's there, but something that really captures the essence of somebody or their own personal style.
yeah,
I find that, I mean, I don't really know much of anything about fashion, but I find the things that I gravitate and what I really like to celebrate is people that just have their own fashion, their own style,
yeah.
and just like, and I feel like I'm in LA, so I feel like you see a lot of that. Like if people just like doing their thing and they're just like confident and they're wearing the thing that they want to be wearing, walking down the street. And I'm like, that's cool. Like rather than these big brands and fashion shows and
And I think that's the key, right? Um, like right now, if your pictures were getting into all kinds of different magazines and you're like this published, your tear sheets are killer. You've got like pictures in W, Vogue, GQ everywhere. That's cool. It probably feels good because I wouldn't know about it. But um, at the same time, from what I can see, you're not necessarily going to be taking your pictures. You've
yeah.
you've had to compromise so much. I mean, if that's your bag, then cool, good for you, but it's not for me. So if I had to compromise that much to be in those places, it would feel good to be in those places. But yeah, in 5 years, no one's gonna be like, oh, you remember that time? No one has ever said, remember that one picture that was in that one? Because people don't remember photographers' names. So um,
Hmm.
I mean, even like the most famous photographers, No one's like walking around being like, oh, do you remember that spread that such and such person did back in the 90s? No one knows these things. No one remembers them. Like Gary Winogrand was one of the best street slash documentary, but actually secretly low key was kind of a street fashion photographer. Gary Winogrand was one of the best photographers ever lived, and kind of is partially responsible for us even having a visual memory of like New York City in the 60s and 70s. But no one knows who this guy is.
We
Like,
both know who Frono's Photos is.
Frono's Frono! And for better or worse, I mean, same thing with social media. Frono's Frodo, he's huge.
Yeah.
Right now in the photo world, and gets all kinds of,
endorsements,
collaborations, free cameras, lenses. Yes. But no matter who you are right now on social media, does anybody remember who was the most popular person, people on in not Cyworld, but in MySpace? If you're like, I was a MySpace,
just Tom.
No one's like, people are like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
I mean, all the people who were like, even some of the models that constantly turned me down because they have 100,000 followers or something like that. The thing that kind of gives me petty satisfaction is Eamon, you're the it person at 22 years old right now, and you've got 100,000, 100K behind your name. But unless you really do something with that now or very soon, when you're 52 in this accelerated technology paced world, nobody's gonna be like, oh yeah, you had 100,000 followers back in 2023. Yeah, we're like, yeah.
There's too many celebrities also now.
Yeah.
There's just an abundance.
Yeah, there's not really such thing as like a star anymore, because there are so many of these influencers and all of that it makes them kind of irrelevant. And I feel like if you don't really like create some type of art that's memorable, like who cares how many followers or what, like they do all kinds of dumb things, like they make money. There was some of my friends texted me and said, I don't understand this world anymore. Like there's just some influencer where he runs around and asks people that own expensive cars, like,
what's your job?
Questions. Yeah, it's like nobody's gonna remember that in probably even like 2 or 3 years. Like all that stuff is very short-lived.
And I mean, that's the thing. Everybody, if you're really good at gaming the system and can get that quick and easy fame, followers. I mean, I even question the idea of an influencer, like people are called influencers now. But do you actually have great social influence? I mean, some influencers do, but some people just have a lot of numbers, a lot of followers. They've gamified the system such that you've got 100K. Does that mean you're a force in this social field?
Right.
I don't know. So I'd rather be unknown, but maybe not unknown by certain people, and be 75, 80. Hopefully I get there. I got to eat better. But I'd like to be in the corner of the room, so to speak, and some random weirdo comes up to me and says, aren't you Michael Hurt? I'll be like, yeah, who's asking? And that person be like, oh, I've followed your work for all these years and I think it's great, and da da da. And they know it and they like it, and that person appreciated it, got something out of it. I'd rather be that person than have enjoyed some fleeting recognition and nobody cares later. So 1 or 2 people care. Hopefully 1 or 2 people who are kind of interesting, cool, good people. Later, if those people cared, then that's the game, I think. If you've done good work.